Good morning, Course 2. Mr. Belky back with lesson 106, which we're going to be taking a look at a couple of different things. Solving literal equations, which will allow us to transform formulas, and some more information on roots. So, let's get started. First off, a literal equation. What is that? Well, a literal equation is an equation that has letters instead of numbers. Okay, so it could look something like example 1, x plus a equals b. All right, and in example 1 it says solve for x. I want to know what x is equal to. I know what b is equal to. b equals x plus a, but what does x equal? Well, we can solve this the same way we would any of our other equations when we were solving for x, only this time instead of adding and subtracting numbers, we're going to add and subtract letters. So to get x by itself, here a is being added to it, so to get rid of that a, the opposite of adding a would be subtracting a. And I got to do that to both sides to keep the equation balanced. Okay, so that'll cancel the a out here and leave me with x equals b minus a. And I just have to simply write it this way. X equals b minus a. That's it. We could do it with multiplication as well. Let's say a times x equals b, and I want to solve for x. Got to get x by itself. So right now when letters are next to each other, that means multiply. So the inverse operation, the opposite of multiplying, would be divide by a, divide by a. That'll cancel out, leaves me with x equals b divided by a. And that's it. We can apply that same thing to help us transform formulas. For instance, the formula for the area of a rectangular prism, area equals, or not prism, just area of a rectangle, area equals length times width. But if I wanted to change that and solve for the width, what is the width equal to? Well, the width, I would have to get rid of this L, divide by L, and then I'd be left with W equals A divided by L. Or in other words, the width is equal to the area divided by the length. Simple as that. Now, we're going to take a look at a little bit more on roots. Okay, the perfect square, 25, has both positive and negative square roots. For instance, if I took the square root of 25, I would have both positive 5 and negative 5 as solutions, because I know that 5 times 5 equals 25, and I also know that a negative times a negative equals a positive 25. Okay? So when we're talking about square roots, generally we're talking about the principal root of a number. So the principal square root of 25 would be 5. We're talking about the principal or the positive square root of that number. Okay? Though the square root of 25 does include, and sometimes you'll see it written as the positive or negative 5. Okay? So one other thing that we want to look at is the cube root. Okay? So if I have a number like 64 and I want the square root, I'll just put that symbol, that radical sign. However, I could do multiple roots of this. So the square root of 64 is 8, right? Square, what number times itself? But if I have a little 3 here, the cube root, this is asking myself what number multiplied 3 times gives me 64. In other words, what times itself 3 times will give me 64. Okay? And so if I look at that, the number 4 times 4 is 16. 16 times 4 is 64. So the cube root of 64 is 4. The square root of 64 is 8. Okay, so square root, what number times itself? Cube root, what number times itself 3 times will give you that number. And you could have the 5th root and so on and so forth. But we're just dealing with cube roots today. So if I had the cube root of 1,000, Okay, so that's asking me what number multiplied by itself 3 times will give me 1,000. Well, that would be 10 times 10 times 10, right? 10 times 10 is 100. 100 times 10 is 1,000. So the cube root of 1,000 is 10. What if I had the cube root of negative 27? So what number multiplied 3 times gives me negative 27? Well, I know that 3 times 3 is 9, and 9 times 3 is 27, but I need negative 27, and so my answer is going to be negative 3. Negative 3 times negative 3 is a positive 9, and positive 9 times negative 3 is negative 27. So the cube root of negative 27 is negative 3. Okay? And that's it for today. If you have any questions, please feel free, call, text, email, or join me online tomorrow, live between 9 and 10 o'clock. Have a fantastic day. We'll see you next time.